Good evening. Please can I welcome everyone to this meeting of the Licensing and Regulation Committee on Tuesday, 17th of March 2026 from the Walton Suite, Winchester Guildhall. The time is 6:30. My name is Councillor Brian Laming, Chairperson of the committee. This meeting will be live streamed from the Council's YouTube channel and the recording will also be available after the meeting. Subtitles can be switched on and advice on how to do these is set out on their website. And I remind members to use their microphones and can everybody ensure their mobile phones are on silent. In the unlikely event it's necessary to evacuate the building, the fire alarm will sound. Please follow all instructions given to you by our team. Can I welcome members of the public to this meeting and will invite you forward when it's time for you to make your contribution. Apologies for absence. David.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillor Cunningham. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Disclosures of interest. Councillor Wallace.
I need to declare that I have a disclosable pecuniary interest in respect of the items on the agenda due to my additional role as a Hampshire County Councillor. However, as there is no material conflict of interest regarding these items, I have a dispensation granted by the Audit and Governance Committee that enables me to speak and vote on these matters.
Thank you. Councillor Pett.
Thank you, Chair. Similar disclosure to Councillor Wallace, in my case, for being a member of the South Downs National Park Authority.
Thank you. Public participation right. Oh, sorry. Minutes of the last meeting. Do I have a proposer for these? Has everybody agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Public participation. I propose to take that after Garrison has introduced the first of the paper. I think I'll probably be here to say. We're going to take your public comments after we've had the introduction to the paper. We can make it first. It's entirely up to you. I thought it'd be better that way. All right. Fine. Would you like to come up and make your comments then?
Thank you, Chair. I've always supported sound, sensible and easily understood arrangements for local government here in Winchester. This was during my 30 years as a city councillor and ever since. An unnecessary, confusing and extra, largely powerless but wildly expensive parish council would be a total distraction when a new unitary council is just taking on joint responsibilities of the present city and county councils. This timing is also absurd, with a decision on the exact boundaries of the new unitaries due probably in a few days. As someone who was involved in the last local government reorganisation, believe it or not, in 1973-74, I remember this issue of a possible parish being discussed then and occasionally thereafter. But it was always agreed that our city would flourish without this distraction of a parish council. This current exercise has dragged on for over a year at huge cost on what I regard as a totally bogus offer. Most of the work has been carried on behind closed doors, with the council refusing to let me see the working papers until I made a Freedom of Information request, which they then couldn't refuse. In the papers actually before you tonight, it is clear that many of the respondents who supported the council's plan seem to think that any new parish council would have excessive powers on issues such as planning, where at best they would be a consultee with no decision role at all. This confusion results from the regular inaccurate and misleading claims in the council's terms of reference about further democratic engagement and representation when parish councils have such limited and narrow powers. In my view, there's a much better way. Winchester's current role as the home of both the present city and county local government offices and historic buildings suggests to me that Winchester could well become the home of the new unitary. The issue of the historic status of the city could also be preserved through appointing as chartered trustees the new councillors elected as unitary members on for the new town area. Government guidance on local government reorganisation was that town and parish councils were no substitute for effective neighbourhood governance, which were to be provided by the new unitary authority. In my view, what you're proposing now is going to be, as I've said, very expensive, very time consuming and completely pointless, setting up something that will be frustrating and irritating to local people.
Thank you.
I can go after introduction. Carry on introduction and I will go after. Yeah, please just introduce me after that, okay? Agree.
Thank you very much, Chair. Following agreement by this committee in September 2025 of the terms of reference and the undertaking of an initial consultation, this report presents the results of the Stage 1 Community Governance Review consultation, together with the draft recommendations for the committee's consideration. The primary focus of the review has been to determine whether a new parish council should be created for the currently unparished town area of Winchester, ensuring that governance arrangements remain effective and reflective of the local community. To gather views, the council carried out a comprehensive 7-week public consultation between November and December 2025, supported by the independent organisation Public Perspectives, who also analysed the feedback. The consultation was widely publicised through the council's website, e-newsletter, public press releases, local newspaper ads, social media, and a Royal Mail leaflet dropped to over 30,000 households. Council members, staff and other key stakeholders, including businesses, community groups, Hampshire County Council and parish councils, were also directly encouraged to take part and share the consultation. 4 public drop-in sessions were also held to promote the consultation and support residents and stakeholders in responding. Public engagement was considered very strong and 1,415 responses were received. This robust response rate gave us confidence in the results. The full report from Public Perspectives is set out in Appendix C in your papers. The headline finding was clear. There's significant support for creating a new local parish council for the Winchester town area. Overall, 65% of respondents agreed with the proposal. Importantly, amongst residents living within the unparished area itself, support rises to 86%, with only 11% disagreeing. Residents and community groups highlighted that establishing a parish council for the town area would strengthen local representation, improve democratic accountability and provide a more direct voice on town-specific issues. Many also viewed this as an important step in safeguarding Winchester city status and mayoralty, particularly in the context of potential local government reorganisation and the creation of larger unitary councils. Creating a new Winchester Parish Council would also address the current inconsistency in democratic representation across the district. To support an effective and smooth transition, we're proposing to retain the established and well understood ward arrangements with 22 councillors to manage the anticipated volume of work. The existing special expenses charge paid by town residents would be replaced by a formal locally determined parish precept. I should also point out that to clarify, these parish wards do not alter the city council district wards, which will remain as they are today. Alongside the core town area, the consultation also explored whether several neighbouring areas and existing parishes could be included within the new Winchester Parish Council. The feedback from residents in the parished areas of Littleton and Harestock, Badger Farm, Oliver's Battery and Compton and Shawford was overwhelmingly clear. There was strong opposition to merging with the new town council, reflecting a desire to preserve distinct community identities, retain existing governance arrangements and avoid unnecessary change. We've listened carefully and our draft recommendations propose no changes to the boundaries of those parishes, with one minor exception relating to Compton and Shawford. However, the position is different for the newer development area to the north. For the land west of Courtney Road, known as the W4 site, officers recommend incorporating it into the new Winchester Parish Council, as its physical connections and expected day-to-day activities align more naturally with the town. This area is currently part of the Headbourne Worthy Parish Council area, and 42% of the responses from the wider Headbourne Worthy Parish Council area agreed with the proposal, whilst 31% disagreed. 52% of residents in the wards of St Barnabas and St Bartholomew also agreed with the proposal, whilst 18% disagreed. In the Kings Barton area, the consultation showed a distinct and emerging community identity. Rather than incorporating Kings Barton into Winchester Town or leaving it within Headbourne Worthy, officers recommend that establishing a dedicated Kings Barton Parish Council with 11 councillors. This parish would cover both the current development area and 60 households currently in the unparished St Barnabas ward, giving this growing community a focused local voice. This proposal reflects the area's limited connection into the historic Worthy villages and uses the railway line, Wellhouse Lane and Andover Road to create a clear recognisable boundary, and it's strongly supported by the Residents' Association. Creating this new parish also allows to retain the existing arrangements for Headbourne Worthy without needing to review its councillor numbers. When asked to what extent did respondents agree or disagree that Kings Barton and the land west of Courtney Road should form their own parish council rather than joining a council for the town area or remaining as part of the Headbourne Worthy Parish Council area, 57% of Kings Barton respondents agreed with the proposal, whilst 36% disagreed, and 47% of the wider Headbourne Worthy Parish Council area respondents agreed with the proposal, whilst 36% disagreed. Today, we're recommending the committee's approval of these draft recommendations set out in Appendix A, so that we can commence the 6-week Stage 2 public consultation early in the 2026-27 municipal year. Providing no substantive issues arise that require major changes, this timetable keeps the council on track to finalise recommendations, secure a reorganisation order and establish the new councils in April 2027, with first elections in May 2027. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public participation now. Councillor Di Stefano? No.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this committee. I'm speaking on behalf of the councillor on the Kings Barton Committee. Firstly, we propose that the number of councillors of the new Kings Barton Parish should be a minimum of 12. This will allow spreading effectively the council workload on a number of committees. We are also asking for this committee to reconsider the proposed northern boundary for Kings Barton Parish. The current suggestion to use Wellhouse Lane does not reflect the new road layout agreed by Hampshire County Council and CAVA. The park and ride is intended to provide funding for the Kings Barton bus service. Therefore, it must sit within an administrative area that has a clear interest in maintaining and supporting that service. At the very least, we ask that the boundary is adjusted to bring the park and ride area into Kings Barton. Similarly, we feel that Wellhouse Mews should be included in Kings Barton. Wellhouse Mews is completely surrounded by Kings Barton, and these residents already engage with our Kings Barton committee. The facilities they use are all within Kings Barton. We also believe that the northern boundary should ideally extend to the 3 Maids roundabout. This would be a sensible long-term decision. Any future development on that land, something that we consider highly likely, should fall under a parish with proven experience in managing and scrutinizing major developments. And importantly, new residents who will use Kings Barton facilities should contribute to their upkeep through the parish precept. We do not support the drawing the Kings Barton eastern boundary along the railway line, because that would place Barton Meadow in Headbourne Worthy. Barton Meadow was created as ecological mitigation for Kings Barton development and was funded £75,000 through Kings Barton commuted sum. It's already functioned as a community asset for Kings Barton residents, and its long-term stewardship should sit with Kings Barton Parish. Only then proper accountability and transparency can be maintained. The landscape and open space strategy for the development is clear that Barton Meadow the Department of Long-Term Aspiration is to become grassland, and that needs consistent oversight from those who understand its purpose. Finally, we ask that you do not set the precedent for Kings Barton in isolation. The Kings Barton Committee would strongly prefer to bring forward the precept in the normal democratic way, with the full consideration of community needs. Thank you for your time and for considering this proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Introduce me, please.
Jerry Adamson.
Good evening. Over the last year, over a year, you are already working on a project, yeah, and you spent a lots of resources, council resources. You spent council money, council taxpayers' money, and what you have achieved? You have found only 452 people living in unparished Winchester town area who actually support the creation of new town council for Winchester area. That in your introduction, you said 86% living in these unparished areas representing, supporting this creation of council. No, it's out of 526 people. 86% represent, 86% agree. But if you take absolute numbers, it's only 452 people living in Winchester and parish areas support the creation of new town council. Yeah, it is out of 28,650 registered electorate. It is just around 1.5%. What is the EU efficiency if you over a year spend time and money on convincing just 1.5% of Winchester residents to create that council? Okay. Second point. This gentleman from Kings Barton, I want to point out these recommendations which you have and which you said in introduction. They base it on misinterpreted responses. For example, there is a land W4 area, yeah, west of Cartenine Road. The Headbourne Worthy Council has agreed to pass this plot of land to the Kings Barton Council, not to Winchester, not to New Winchester Council. They agreed only with that. Moreover, Kings Barton residents, they strongly disagree to pass this W4 area to the future Winchester Town Council. So council just disregarded that responses. So what you doing? Okay, my last and final point. Okay, in order to democratically establish any new town council for Winchester area, you have to call and organize a local referendum. Only this way you can understand what is the percentage of registered electorate living in unparished areas who wants to establish this new bureaucratic body. Referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment? Do you want?
Thank you. I'll just pick up on a couple of those comments. Firstly, on Councillor De Stefano's points. So following the parish briefing and the all-member briefing that we undertook a couple of weeks ago, we have revisited the proposed councillor numbers for the new councils that are being set up. And for the new Kings Barton Parish Council, it will be increased from the originally proposed 9 to 11 now. We've also revisited the town council numbers as well, which have been increased to 22. In respect of the Wellhouse Lane Park and Ride, the Park and Ride site is included within the northwestern boundary of the proposed plan for Kings Barton Parish Council. On the Wellhouse Mews site, we could, as part of the stage 2 process, speak to the 4 people individually in respect of their wishes in terms of the outcome of this community governance review. In respect of your point about the northern boundary extending to the Three Maids roundabout, yeah, in terms of a future community governance review, I would accept that point. I mean, that isn't currently a proposed development site. I mean, if it is developed, it's a long way out. It's not even in the next local plan. So, so at this stage, community governance reviews are only supposed to be undertaken when you've got residents in an area to consult with, once you get to the sort of 60–70% stage. In terms of the boundary along the railway line and Barton Meadows, so the Barton Meadows site is defined as ecological amenity land, which is protected by the Section 106 agreement that was entered into in 2011 when the Barton Farm development was first proposed. The council's view is that this is in the process of being transferred from CALA to the Hampshire Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. Protection of this site is under the Section 106, and this includes both the footpath use and its use as ecological amenity land. And it's considered to be adequately protected. The MHCL guidance, which principal authorities are required to have regard to when implementing CGRs, includes provisions that boundaries need to be easily identifiable and follow major roads, rivers and railways or other natural boundaries such as parks or recreation grounds. Because Barton Meadows sits to the east of the railway line, which forms a strong geographic boundary, and the Kings Barton site sits to the west, with sole access being a path under the railway, it was felt that inclusion within the Kings Barton parish area would create a rather awkward boundary for no good purpose. Access to the circular footpath is from the northern edge of the W4 site, which is proposed to be in the Winchester Parish Council area, and the majority of its boundaries are shared with HWPC, Headbourne Worthy Parish Council area. So this site would be bordered by all three parish councils. It's got more in common with the rural character of Headbourne Worthy and is chiefly accessed from the Winchester Parish Council proposed side, and has a hard boundary with Kings Barton, which is more suburban in character. And also a key point on this is it represents no financial responsibility for any existing or future parishes. None of the parish councils are parties to the Section 106 agreement, and it's not felt that any financial burden would ever come to them. Responsibility for enforcing any breaches of Section 106 agreements rests with the Winchester City Council or its successor unitary in the future. In terms of the final point, you've mentioned the precept being set in isolation. When setting the first precept, it's not actually called a precept for the first year. It's an estimate of the costs of the first year of operation. Absolutely, this will not be done in isolation, and there will be extensive consultation with Headbourne Worthy when setting this. If I could just pick up on Mr. Adamson's points. So I just basically would like to remind you that a community governance review is not a referendum. The stage one consultation, we're confident that we followed all the relevant guidelines. We used an independent and experienced consultancy to support us with this and development of the consultation. We held 4 drop-in events to support it. All adults in the area had the opportunity to respond, and the consultation was widely promoted, including paid for advertising, 30,000 leaflets printed and distributed. The level of response exceeded significantly similar types of consultations undertaken in other boroughs which are currently going on. The percentage of those in support that responded is high. There is a second stage consultation where there is a further opportunity for residents to have their say, which will be commencing shortly after the May elections.
Thank you. Councillor Beck.
Did you want me to respond to Mr. Davis?
Yeah, why not?
So we heard lots there. I understand these do represent Mr. Davis's individual views, and it's clear from the numbers of responses we received and the percentages received that they are not representative of the views of the wider Winchester community. I would like to remind him that without having a parish council for Winchester, the people in the unparished areas of Winchester will be left with no level of local government between them and the unitary authority, and that is completely out of kilter with every other part of the district. Every other part of the district, save for a very, very small uninhabited corner of Otterbourne, there is a parish or town council in place. Without doing this for the people of Winchester, they are left with nobody in between themselves and the unitary authority, and that places them at a democratic deficit.
Excuse me, could you mind keeping
I
your
didn't talk
comments
over the
quiet,
time.
please? This is a public meeting and we're allowing people to speak.
You mentioned that the boundaries of the full unitary, that the timing of this exercise is wrong because the boundaries of the unitary are yet to be determined. We don't have the luxury of time. We are up against a ticking clock put in place by the government. So we need to make sure that we can do the best for the residents of Winchester by giving them the option to put forward this parish council. I've answered him multiple times on the use of working groups, and I've noted many times to him that these are an absolutely commonplace occurrence in every council in the country, where the work of councillors cannot take place always in public. The cost to the public of doing so would be absolutely astronomical. We are as open and more open than many other councils. We have this meeting, as every other public meeting, is being live streamed so people can watch at their convenience, not only watching now on the live stream, or they can watch a recording at their convenience. Members of the public are invited to exercise the right, as he has done this evening, to attend and to make his views known. So yes, we do have meetings that take place without the public, but the outcomes of those meetings are always discussed in public in a forum such as this. And I would just like to reiterate again that the results of the consultation show very strong support for the establishment for a parish council in the Winchester area, despite his individual views. Just finally, just to point out to everybody that yes, there was a decision taken in 1974. That's before I was born. It's before many of the people around this table were born. But at that time, well, I'm not sure if it was at that time, but the people of Winchester have had the Winchester Town Forum, which is a committee of this council. That committee will cease to exist on the day that this council ceases to exist. So it's absolutely imperative that we fulfill our duty and give the people of Winchester a voice on the same basis as every other resident in this district going forward.
Thank you. Now, it's the turn of the councillors. Councillor Cremorton, would you like to address us?
Thank you, Chair. I suspect that Mr. John has answered some of the points I was going to raise in here, but I'll just still present them anyway, and then it's up to members whether they wish to take them up. So firstly, just to introduce myself, I'm Councillor Steve Cremorton. I'm a City Councillor for the Worthies ward, and I'm also Chair of the Kings Barton Forum, which has in its terms of reference that it will conduct a community governance review at some stage of the Kings Barton development. So I'd really like to take the opportunity to thank council officers for extending the Winchester unparished area community governance review to incorporate the community governance review for Kings Barton and Headbourne Worthy. I think that's a very helpful thing to be doing at this stage. So on behalf of myself and my city councillor colleagues, we support the proposal to create a new Winchester parish, and we also back the creation of a separate Kings Barton parish. And just to pick up on the words of my colleague here, Councillor Becker, I think that, you know, it's one thing to have an unparished area or encompassing, 30, 40,000 people when you're in a district of 140,000, but when you're in a unitary authority with 500,000, that really does create a bit of a problem. So I fully support the process that we've gone through here and the proposal to have a Winchester parish. the creation of a separate Kings Barton parish would ensure that Kings Barton residents have a strong local voice, particularly when it comes to dealing with developers, the specific developer being Carla, who is in the process of building out Kings Barton, and also with the local authorities. As chair of the Kings Barton Forum, I see only too closely how challenging that can be. And I think it's important that the community there has a method by which it can channel its concerns through a parish council where it has a loud voice rather than being a marginal part of a much bigger area. I'm also very pleased to see that the proposal includes the 60 to 70 homes that are just east of the Andover Road and are part of the Kings Barton development, but from historical reasons happen to be in the unparished area. They are clearly, quite obviously, part of the same community. And I think that's really good news from the point of view of community inclusivity and cohesion. Separating Kings Barton from Headbourne Worthy would benefit both areas. Kings Barton will gain enough councillors to manage its growth, while Headbourne Worthy will regain a more manageable structure. Establishing a parish boundary along the current Wellhouse Lane is welcomed, as it includes the car park that will support the park and ride service and users of the Kings Barton playing fields. I think you already partly answered this, but may I make a request, though, that at the next stage of the process establishes whether the residents of Wellhouse Mews, and I think it's 6 homes, which is just off Wellhouse Lane, that they choose to be part or indicate a preference to be part of Headbourne Worthy instead of being part of Kings Barton. I think there's arguments for and against. I certainly support the reasoning for why the area labelled as W4 should be included in the new Winchester parish due to its closer connection to Abbots Barton. Regarding Barton Meadows, which serves multiple communities, not just Kings Barton, not just Headbourne Worthy, not just Abbots Barton, but people in the St Barnabas ward and others. It's been exercising us about how best to ensure that it continues to serve its 2 primary purposes of ecology and biodiversity mitigation, but also the role in providing access to countryside walks close to where people live. As a ward and county councillor team in the Worthies, our concern is to ensure that the rights for people to access and enjoy that walk around the meadows from all those areas that adjoin that area is retained and maintained. So, Chair, with your permission, could I ask Mr. John, as the City Council Head of Legal, to offer some informal advice in this public forum as to the current legal mechanisms that exist to protect this walking route, but also to confirm that to further protect them for the long term, interested parties could lobby the County Council and its successor to define those countryside walking routes as designated paths rather than looking to this governance review and parish boundaries as the mechanism to achieve this. So apologies, Chair and Mr. John, if it sounds like I'm leading the witness.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do you want to answer it now or leave it till after?
I'm trying to pick it up.
Okay, we should like pick it up now.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. In terms of the legal structure that protects that, as I've already mentioned, that was established in 2011 under the Section 106 agreement for Barton Farm, and that basically protects both the ecological amenity land as it's defined in the agreement, and it also protects the circular footpath which is identified basically around the perimeter of it, pretty much. In terms of if there were to be any breaches of the Section 106 agreement, which were to threaten that in terms of access being limited or restricted to that footpath, it would be for a complaint to be made with Winchester City Council as the enforcing authority currently. In the future, that liability would be inherited by the unitary authority, because all legal responsibilities that Winchester City Council currently have would automatically transfer by operation of law. And yes, in terms of your secondary point about protecting that footpath by making it a registered designated footpath with Hampshire County Council, it would be open to sort of parish councillors or to members to lobby Hampshire County Council in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Horrell.
Chair, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to address the committee. I think many accept that making the city wards into a Winchester Parish Council will be a positive action and allow all parts of the district to be represented in a similar way for all residents. As a city councillor representing a ward impacted by the initial consultation, I've been asked to seek clarification tonight about a number of issues that have come up in your report and indeed in the published report from the consultation. I would like to understand the exact boundaries for the Winchester Parish Council and existing parish councils as we move forward in this important project, especially with the overlay of the local government reorganisation that we're about to take on. I would seek clarification on page 85 of the report, which shows a part of the St Barnabas ward outside of the St Barnabas Winchester City Parish. Is Harestock continuing to be part of the St Barnabas ward for city or unitary election purposes? And will it be part of the Littleton and Harestock parish area for parish council purposes? So will Harestock have a say in 2 parish councils or 1? Or is Harestock, as page 30 indicates in the report, A, is removed from St Barnabas as it is, and is it therefore becoming part of the Wonston and Mittledever ward? It is not clear to us where the lines are, and maybe it may be a matter of the annotation on the map, Chair, but it would be helpful to have better clarification, please. We would also like to understand how have the number of councillors been calculated as designated on page 30? What methodology has been used to come up with the 22 currently proposed? Another point of clarification, and may have to come at the next level of consultation, all parishes currently manage themselves. They have clerks, paid or whatever structures they have. So please can you clarify how the new Winchester Parish Council will administer itself? Will it be in the same way as all the other parishes across our district? Chair, thank you for your time this evening, and I hope that you will be able to clarify these important points, especially about the boundaries, because it is not obvious to us exactly what is meant from the map on page 85. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Jones.
Thank you, Chair. There are no proposed changes to any city council, city council wards currently. So I'm not sure. I'm happy to pick this up outside the meeting in terms of in terms of the proposals, but there are no proposed changes to any existing boundaries. So Harestock will remain in Littleton and Harestock Parish Council. I'm not quite.
Chair, if I may, but it says in the report that A on page 30, A to be removed from the new St Barnabas Parish Ward. So it's not in St Barnabas, therefore it's in Littleton and Harestock, but the line on the map does not indicate that A is still in the St Barnabas ward for the purposes of city council or unitary elections. So it may be a matter of annotation, but it's not clear. It looks sadly like a no man's land at the moment, not quite in one or the other. Hopefully that clarifies, Chair.
It does. Thank you for that clarification. So when it says new St Barnabas ward, it means new St Barnabas ward of Winchester Parish Council. I should have made that clear in the report.
Thank you.
So just in respect of the additional points, the calculation of the number of councillors, there are basically 2 major studies out there in respect of calculating parish councillors. They're both relatively old. There's an Aston Business School report, and there's also NAUC guidance on this, and there's some gap between them. So broadly speaking, we've applied that when making these calculations. It's not a precise science, though, calculating numbers of parish councillors. And your third question, in terms of how a parish council will administer itself, yes, I mean, that will be a matter largely for the new parish council to determine, but along similar lines, but it's that there are matters for new parish councils as they're established.
So if I may, because this is our chance really to clarify, obviously parish councils have their clerks, they pay for those. Obviously at the moment, the town forum is supported by an officer regime. So just to be clear, that would step aside and the new Winchester Council, parish council, would be like all the others and have to self-administer and find itself the appropriate support.
Yes, that is correct. Assuming that that full council approved the reorganisation order in July or August, a recruitment will commence then for a town clerk, parish clerk for the new parish council.
Could I be really cheeky and therefore, particularly on the boundary issue, would it be appropriate for this committee just to clarify that to those of us impacted by the implications of how the map on page 85 is currently annotated, so that we're all clear what's in and what's out? Thank you, Chair. I'd appreciate that. And the parish council, I know, would appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. We'll pick that up outside of the meeting. Thank you.
Do you want to make any comments, Councillor Backer?
No, I think Mr. John has more than adequately answered all of those. Thank you.
Members, any questions? I propose to take this in its entirety. Councillor Pett.
Thank you, Chair. Just one point of further clarity going on from Councillor Horrell's question, actually. I'm assuming that the town forum, as was just said, is administered through the officers of Winchester City Council. Are those officers paid for specifically by the element of precept that's levied on the town forum area, or are they within the total budget of Winchester City Council? So I suppose what I'm getting at is the precept that any new parish council would need to raise, is that going to be an additional cost?
Yes.
The way that it's currently calculated, it's obviously not a precise science because there aren't a dedicated number of officers working to that. The first precept will be calculated based on whatever assets or services transfer to the new parish, and will include the costs of employing the town clerk to service the new council.
Just to clarify, currently residents of the town do pay what's known as a special charge, which is not a precept officially, but it is a charge that is levied from residents to pay for the services that are carried out by the town forum.
And I think that's what I was getting at. So the cost of administering the town forum is in effect paid for from that additional charge, or not?
As Mr. John said, the town forum does pay for officer time, but it is an imprecise science, and this does have the benefit of clarifying exactly for residents what it is they are paying for.
Thank you. Councillor Langford-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, in section 5, it talks about transferable assets, the property and asset. Can I ask about the implications of that, please? How will the list of transferable assets be considered by committee or the subcommittee before the final list comes forward for consideration by council? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to start. Happy to take that question. So basically, with that, what we're doing is the governance structure that will be in place to determine that is that there will be a town forum group, as it were, which in effect will come forward with the assets and services that it would seek to transfer. And there'll be some separation between that and the Winchester City Council side, which will sort of determine that, which will be formed from basically it'll be a continuation of the working group that's sat so far to consider the proposals that have come forward. But in effect, there is some separation. So, but there'll sort of be two sides to the equation. And then once a final list has been sort of determined between them, it will then come forward as part to full council for determination as part of the reorganisation order.
Sorry, if I may, just for further clarification. So I'm talking particularly about the valuable property assets such as the Bar End Leisure Centre, KGV Fields, etc. Where are they likely to go? Because they're district assets as opposed to Winchester specific assets. Thank you.
Thank you. They wouldn't. I mean, assets such as leisure centres and things wouldn't normally form part of a. They wouldn't normally transfer to a parish council. As you say, they're district assets. There is still work to be done in terms of determining which assets. I mean, we're at a much earlier stage, and that we're only at the about to go out to the stage 2 side. Sorry, stage 2 stage of the community governance review. So decisions haven't been made on those types of assets, but things such as leisure centres would not normally be included. Thank you.
Councillor Brophy.
Just a follow up to the previous question on the transferable assets. I suppose the and some of the other points that have been made about how the split of costs might sort of fall on people paying the new precept. Within the city, you have lots of assets which are used by visitors from far and wide. So the costs of the district obviously, helps share some of the costs of the tourist benefits and the kind of people from, say, other wards and other parishes will come into the city centre by definition. I suppose the question is, do we have any experience from other town councils or other cities? So, for example, Salisbury is given as an example of somewhere that's gone through this, whereby I suppose there's not disproportionate cost or burden not placed on people living within the city for, I suppose, amenities that are provided to the whole district and beyond in terms of tourism.
Thank you. I mean, Salisbury is a very big town council, and it's got a very sizable asset base. In terms of assets that are transferred, as I said, we're still at a very early stage of this CGR, and an asset list hasn't been determined what will transfer over yet. In terms of how they would be dealt with by any future town council, that would be largely a decision for them, because there'll be a sovereign body, obviously, once they're created.
Just to add to that, this isn't an issue that is new for if a parish council is established. It's dark now, we can't see Abbey Gardens, but Abbey Gardens is a good example of an open space that is in the city centre but is seen as a district asset, and therefore its maintenance is not paid for out of the town forum budget, it is paid for out of the district budget, and same for the play area.
I think that's helpful for residents to understand as well, so thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon-Smith, please.
Yes, we've been talking about assets, but some of the assets are clearly a liability, namely the Guildhall and, dare I say, Abbey House. And I just wondered what might happen with those. I mean, you can understand a lovely shiny new leisure centre people might really like, or a pavilion, but something which is going to cost a lot of money and doesn't generate an income. I'm curious about how that one would be parcelled up.
I mean, I think I'd refer back to my earlier answer. I mean, they're not likely to be considered the type of assets that would be suitable for transfer, but no decisions have been made as yet on those.
Thank you. Councillor Layton, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question on names and the importance of sort of consistency and use in that, especially in a big sort of public operation like this. I noticed throughout the report, and Mr. John, you're doing it now as well, we're referring to it already as a town council. Now, I understand that upon inception, any new parish council, that third tier of government is to be called a parish council and then change its name. I just wonder if, or what, if any, sort of decision has gone into this use of the word town, when within the district, for example, New Alresford is a town council. Nearby, as mentioned, we have Salisbury, which is a city which is small, has a less population than Winchester, and Winchester obviously being an ancient capital of Wessex and England, might not the word city be better used in any future council, whilst I realise that is a decision for a future parish council to make. So my question is, why are we using the word town presumptively? Thank you.
Thank you. That's that's a really good question. I mean, as you've already said, on its inception, it has to have it can only be a parish council. There are some other words that can be used as well, like community council. It can resolve to change its name to town, and it can be a city council later, if assuming it has the city status, or in the case of City of Durham Parish Council, which doesn't hold the city status for the entire district, but it does have the name city in its title. But in order to do that, you do require special consent, which is something that we are also looking at. So we're still very much we're still looking into the sort of the heraldic and civic issues and unpicking the interaction between those and local government reorganisation. Then it's very complicated, but that would be an aspiration.
May I just follow up then, Chair? Would it perhaps be better to use the word parish council consistently at this point then? I'm just aware again of things constantly changing and it being confusing for the public. Or is your sort of considered opinion that we kind of use this blend at the moment the best way forward?
I can certainly look at clarifying that in the documents that go out as part of the stage 2 consultation. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been kind of styled as a parish council for the town thus far, and there has been some interchangeability in that. But yeah, we can pick up on that.
I think that's helpful as well, because I know from talking to residents themselves, there is in a town, in a city that hasn't had perishing before, there is a misunderstanding sometimes as to what is meant by a parish in the context of a church parish versus a civic parish. So I think it is helpful just to clarify that.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace.
I was going to go back to the boundary recommendations. I was going to go back to Kings Barton and Headbourne Worthy. So what assessment has been made of the long-term viability of a standalone Kings Barton parish, particularly regarding council recruitment, precept setting and administrative capacity? And also, right to that, have officers modelled any practical implications for Headbourne Worthy Parish Council if Kings Barton and W4 are removed, both in terms of financially, operationally, or in terms of representation? Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, as far as Headbourne Worthy is concerned, obviously it would revert to the position that it was in prior to Kings Barton's commencement of development. In terms of Kings Barton, there are a number of issues that feed into that in relation to some of the Section 106 monies that have come from and will continue to come from CALA. So yes, there is still work to be done on the precept. As I said, we're still only finishing stage 1 of this process, just about to go into stage 2. There is work to be done on the finances of it, and the sort of the first precept is the wrong word, but the charge that would be applied for the first year of operation, there's still quite a bit of calculation that needs to go into that.
Sorry, and in terms of the number of councillors for Kings Barton, I think the residents of Kings Barton have proved themselves to be a very active community. That looking at Councillor Cremoyson and Councillor Di Stefano here, they are very willing and very active in taking a role on the existing Headbourne Worthy Parish Council. So I think there would be absolutely no issue in recruitment for a new parish council specifically for Kings Barton. And equally, I understand from Councillor Cremoyson that Headbourne Worthy previously didn't have a problem recruiting councillors either. So assuming that position remains as it was 5-10 years ago before the development of Kings Barton, we don't anticipate any issue in the recruitment of parish councillors for those two areas.
And just to build on that, also the population of Kings Barton is growing as well. It's only at barely 50% of its built out population. So,
Councillor Langford Smith.
Thank you, Chair. So following on from that, the strength of the feedback that we've received from the first consultation, what's the likelihood that if local government reorganisation doesn't go ahead, that we will still continue with this parishing of the rest of the Winchester district, or would it all go on hold?
It's a very good question, and it is a question that we have been contemplating. My view is that the premise on which we have consulted the public is in the context of LGR and the prospect of this democratic deficit. So my view is it wouldn't be right for us to push ahead without at least doing a further round of consultation with the public to say, we know we consulted you on the basis of LGR going ahead, but that's no longer going ahead. Do you still prefer a parish council over the status quo of the town forum? That would democratically, I don't think we could do it otherwise. Having said that, all of the mood music from the government at the moment is that LGR is absolutely going ahead. So I wouldn't want to say that it's not.
Councillor Morris.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very aware that we're anticipating a development in Sir John Moore Barracks of about 950 houses. Would I be right in assuming that if that goes ahead, when it goes ahead, it's almost certain, that will be, as it currently falls within the boundaries of Littleton and Harestock Parish Council, that those residents will find themselves delightfully members of Littleton and Harestock Parish Council. Is that correct assumption?
Yes, that's a correct assumption, yeah.
Any further questions? Councillor Wise.
Yeah, I guess. What are the key legal risks at this stage, particularly around boundary decisions, and what safeguards are in place to minimise the risk of judicial review?
Around the boundaries itself, I think the legal risks are relatively low. We're not sort of joining lots of, or basically merging lots of bits of other parishes. There's always the risk of judicial review in every decision that a public body makes. It's not considered to be significant in this instance. I think we've, I mean, in terms of what we've done to mitigate that, we've followed a very rigorous process. We've utilised an independent consultant. It's been stretched out over quite a long period of time. We'll have followed 2 lengthy stages of consultation.
Shall we move on to debate then? Councillor Bivey.
I think I just wanted to comment on the remarks made in the public participation section about the level of participation in this. I think we all recognise that, you know, this is, relatively speaking, a very successful consultation with a particularly high turnout for this kind of consultation. But it is true that the level of interest in this debate, the salience of this debate, is, say, lower than our consultations on recycling, for example. And I think it's a paradox that we have to move forward with the consent and the participation of the public, but we can only do as much as the public will allow us to do. And if they don't turn up to the conversation when invited, there's not much more we can do. I think this has been a real challenge when the question is very hard to discuss, to ask simply. You can always, you know, pretty much be assured of a low turnout to a questionnaire. Absolutely. So when you knock on doors as a city councillor, some people don't know if you're a city councillor or a county councillor or a parish, or will say to you in one case, "Oh, are you the MP then?" Which took me by surprise. When the level of public awareness is that low, the question over your new parish arrangements is quite a difficult one to ask. So I'd say the officers have done a very good job in getting us this far, especially given the time constraints that we've been placed under by Westminster.
Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to sort of say that I think this process, to my sort of inexperienced eyes at least, has gone very well, and I'd like to congratulate the council officers and the the cabinet lead on it. We spotted that this was a potential issue. We have consulted with residents. We have looked at what, in my opinion, are sensible questions to ask around surrounding parishes and the sensible, perhaps redrawing of boundary lines after, with more than 50 years post the last local government reorganisation. And we've then listened to those responses, and they were quite firm regarding the existing parishes, and indeed involving one of the new parishes as well. So I'd just like to say I think this is a sort of, without being too self-congratulatory of the council, a job well done. We've gone out and asked what people wanted. We've heard, and by and large, that is what we're hoping to enact with this paper. So, thank you.
Councillor Pett.
Thank you, Chair. I, like some others in the room, speak as a disinterested party insofar as my ward is a rural one and these proposals don't directly affect it at all. But I would just observe that when I and my ward colleague have gone round parish councils and parish meetings, and we've talked about local government reorganisation and the potential benefits, financial benefits of lobbying up, as it were, people listen, but communities want to be heard in their own community, as their own communities. Even the smallest of our parish councils did not want to even think about merging with any others. I think in this particular consultation, I would agree with what's just been said. The consultation has gone as well as we could expect it to have gone. Had we started with a clean sheet of paper and the existing parishes beyond the city limits didn't exist and so on and so forth, then perhaps it would have been possible to develop a new Winchester parish in the new LGR world that was slightly more coherent than the one we're looking at now. But we've asked people their views, and yes, it's always the case that a very low proportion of people actually do respond to consultations, but nonetheless, that's the way these things work. I think the proposals that are now in the paper are the best that we could hope for from that exercise, and therefore I support it. And I firmly am of the view that the residents of Winchester City, no matter how you draw it, deserve to have their voice heard at the parish level, just the same as all my villagers in my ward deserve to have their voice heard at that level. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Goldsmith.
Yes, well, I mean, I am somewhat disinterested. I live in Alresford. We have quite a strong town council there. There's various agreements about their competence and otherwise. But I know if that was taken away, there would be an absolute fury. And I think it's a huge advantage for the residents to know who their councillor is, be able to recognise them. And at the moment in Alresford, we have one councillor for about, I think, population of 6,000. There's one councillor every 2,000 people. So actually people know your face. I think that's hugely valuable. And I think trying to get decisions taken democratically as low down, if you like, at as low a level as possible, is a very sound way of doing it. And I don't know what would happen if you didn't have a town council here and you just went straight to a unitary authority. You probably have, I don't know what they're going to call the councillors, divisional or whatever, but they wouldn't be known and they would have an astronomical workload. So I think actually this is a very sound plan.
Councillor Morris.
Thank you. Yes, looking through the minutes of previous meetings, I note that in the meeting of the 16th of June, where we initiated the CGR process, the view was expressed then that the consultation should be restricted to only areas which were currently unparished. I have to say I'm very glad we didn't do that, because The whole point of a consultation like this is to get the views of all residents who will be impacted by a decision, directly and indirectly. And it would not have been fair or judicious to deprive residents of the village parishes of the opportunity to make their views heard, as their views are as valued as those living in the city. As a result of this consultation, we've got exactly what we desired back in June. We've got a clear instruction from the unparished town area that its residents wanted to become a town parish. We have a clear instruction from the currently parished areas that they are happy to remain as they are, or in the case of Kings Barton, a clear instruction that they want their own parish council. We would not have known this without the consultation of all residents, village and city, parished and unparished. As also expressed in the meeting on the 16th, the whole purpose of this exercise has been to ensure that all decisions made are in harmony with the views of residents. We are not in the business of riding roughshod over the views of residents, and as councillors seeking re-election, we are certainly not in the business of making ourselves unpopular without good reason. And so in the spirit of local democracy and getting decision-making as close to the people as possible, I am glad to have been able to see the results of this consultation and for the recommendations to be used as a basis for the next stage of the CGR process. Thank you.
Thank you. I think from my point of view, it's been a very good exercise. We've gone out to the community and we've got a really good response rate, better than what we'd anticipate, although it does look a little bit on the light side, but it's demonstrated one thing, the strength of the communities that we serve. We've seen a good response from the town area. We've seen good responses from the outlying parishes. And I think that's showed that people really care about their communities. So therefore, I'd like to carry on now and move the recommendations on pages 9 and 10. Is everybody in agreement on that?
Agreed.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of the business for this evening. Thanks everybody for coming.